Hey y'all, it's Chris from Southern Hunt and Fish, and today I was gonna bring you a new product review. Um, it's a beautiful day here in Alabama, and just came out of church a little while ago, and uh, decided that I was gonna stop by one of the church leader, uh, Troy McWillett's house, and get some sweet tea after church. And dang it, if his wife didn't make country pork chops with gravy and green beans and homemade macaroni and cheese and bread and all this stuff. So I am a happy camper. We have the greatest church, I believe, in the whole world, and the most amazing people go there. But anyway, today's product review is a pair of boots that I got, and I've had them for over a year now. So that's plenty of time to really assess them and get an idea if they're worth spending the money. But the boot today is a Browning Buck Shadow boot. This particular boot is 400 grams of Thin Slit Ultra insulation. It's made really well. This one comes in mossy oak camouflage. I'm sure there's probably several different camo options available with them, and you can see that it's a good looking boot. There's a lot of plastic on them, as you can see on the outside. There's a great tab in the back to grab onto, and I promise you, this thing is actually a really well made tab. It's got rivets in it, as well as sewn in very well through the plastic stuff or the rubber or whatever, and the Gore-Tex, and it goes. So these seem to be really well made, and they've held up very well. The boot it's a 400 gram boot in terms of insulation, that Thin Slit Ultra insulation, and I have really enjoyed the boot. It's very, very light, and that's great, for walking in, and it's less fatigue. I wear them turkey hunting, and I cover sometimes 5 miles or more on a turkey hunt, and if you have heavy boots on, you may not realize it in the first mile or two, but I guarantee you in the third or fourth or fifth, you'll start to realize that you've got some heavy boots on, particularly me, because I've got so much hardware in my legs, and I've had knee surgeries and stuff. But anyway, these boots, I feel like they're a good looking boot, very light. They broke in the break-in period, which, to be honest, in some boots can be a challenge. But there really was no break-in period, I didn't feel like, with these boots. In fact, I remember sort of marveling at, that they were just good to go the first time I wore them. And, I've had them for a year. I've had a lot of boots that after 6 or 8 months of heavy wear, they will start to leak or give you issues. That's not been the case with these boots at all. And when I say heavy wear, I bow hunt from October 15th right up through February 10th, and hunt nearly every day. And the same thing with turkey season. Traditionally, it starts around March 15th, and then goes for 6 weeks, and I'll hunt every day of turkey season also. And so I've logged a lot of miles in these things, and they have really stood up to the mileage and the abuse. I stick my boots out the sides of my climber. I work for Buckhorn Outdoors climbing stands. We make those higher level stands and the double lock stands, and we actually have a new prototype Cadillac 3 coming out soon. I think there's one in the mail coming to me to do some testing on before we before we start selling them to everybody else. But anyway, on my climbing stands, I just stick my boots out the sides, and so there's no noticeable wear from that at all. The waterproof qualities, like I mentioned, there's no leaks in it. It's held up very well. It seems like a lot of them, they will leak after 6-8 months or a year. And that, boy, there is nothing more frustrating than you get a pair of boots and they will only honor the warranty for a year, and before you reach that year, right after that year, they quit leaking. And that has happened to me a whole bunch. It hasn't been just once that's happened to me, I guarantee you that. Now, if I'm going to, I wanted to show you the tongue of the boot. It comes up really about 3/4 of the way to the top. Now, some of the cons with the boot are you can see that the tongue comes up just a little bit above the boot itself, and honestly, and then the way that these things lace up, the laces can actually come above that tongue. So I wish two things. I wish this top, the top eyes or hooks, if you will, for the shoelaces, I wish they were maybe a 1/4 of an inch lower, and I wish the tongue of the boot was a 1/4 of an inch taller. I wish it was a little bit taller than the boot itself. That may be nitpicking a little bit, but that's how I would, if I were going to make some improvements to the boot. That would certainly be one of them. Another issue, and I think it's fairly minor issue. I don't rifle hunt at all. All I do is bow hunt. But I do a lot of sneaky footing through the woods during turkey season, running gunning for turkeys with a shotgun, and I run and gun also with a bow for turkeys as well. And one thing I can tell you is that in the morning dew, or if there's some condensation on the grass or whatever, for some reason these boots will actually squeak a little bit. And I haven't honestly ever been able to figure out if it's because of all the rubber and plastic on them, or if it's something else, but there is an audible squeak to the boots. Now, there are guys who spot and stalk for deer and run and gun for turkeys that I believe would rule this boot out as a good boot because of that squeak. Me, it is not a deal breaker at all. It's something that I'm conscious of course, while I'm hunting, but it's not as bad a problem as I think that some people might think it is. But that is definitely something to consider. Is there's absolutely an audible sort of squeak in wet conditions, and it has made me slow down a little bit while I'm turkey hunting or going into a stand in the morning or whatever. But again, have I ever scared any deer because of that squeak? No, I have not. So I don't think it's a deal breaker for me anyway, although for some guys it may be. Now the tread is not super aggressive. I would call it middle of the road. For me, it seems like, to use the metaphor analogy of truck tires, not probably mud tires, definitely not street tires, but it may be all terrains. It is, the tread is aggressive enough to keep really good traction. However they've decided to lay this traction out, it really works well. I've never had any issues where I felt like it slipped in wet conditions or on a particular surface or anything. I've always felt like the traction was really good and no issues in that regard. So in closing, I think that this boot, it's a $170 boot, so it's not super expensive, but I promise you this boot, this Browning Buck Shadow boot, and again, this is the 400 gram version of it in Mossy Oak, is a winner for me. And I think that it brings a lot to the table, and I think it really outperforms a lot of boots that I've had in the past that are $200, $250 boots. So I am really, really happy with it. I'll tell you also that, and maybe that should be a separate video, but during the wintertime, I've been using that IWOM in really cold weather, and I can use this boot no matter how cold it gets. I can use this 400 gram boot because I'm zipping it up, everything up inside the IWOM, and get away with it just fine versus wearing a pair of 1200 or 1600 or 2000 gram boots and sweating in them and getting my feet wet inside of the boots on my way up to the stand. So I think that the Browning Buck Shadow boot at $170, I think it's $169.99 if I'm not mistaken, is the MSRP on it. I think it's a winner. I think it's a slam dunk. Definitely a boot that you guys should consider. And it handles wears very well. The soles don't go up prematurely. Mine are still waterproof even after a year. So check this boot out. I don't know and haven't looked if you can find it for less than the $170, $169.99 MSRP or not. But it should definitely be a boot that you can consider as a really good boot. And something that you should consider buying for this deer season or turkey season. Hey, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that these videos are so long-winded, but I'm very, very grateful for your time and patience and indulgence in it. And, so God bless y'all, and I hope everybody has a great deer season this year and a great turkey season this fall, or forgive me, this coming spring. And but thank you guys again, and God bless y'all. Bye-bye.